Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, August 5th, 2013, and here are our top stories.
Tonight on the Infowars Nightly News, the scare tactics roll out from the Al-Qaeda cheering section.
Al-Qaeda is in many ways stronger than it was before 9/11 because it's mutated and it's spread.
Plus, John Boehner lends a helping hand on the Benghazi cover-up. Then, smart meter activism with Dr. Laura Presley. All that and more on the Infowars Nightly News.
Well, the government and the mainstream media are coming out with even more admissions about the crimes that happened in Benghazi, as well as the NSA's crimes. But of course, they're all okay because they're doing it to protect us. Yes, they're telling us that a worldwide scare actually vindicates the NSA actions, that somehow we need the Stasi security state. In an article from Infowars, U.S. extends embassy closings, warnings renew debate over NSA data collection. We learn that now the government has told us that even though they knew when these attacks were going to happen, they were going to happen yesterday, they didn't know exactly where, so they had to close embassies all over the world. Now they're telling us they're not really sure when those attacks are going to occur, so now they're extending it. But that doesn't stop the military-industrial complex from putting out their usual puppets and cheerleaders for military spending and for the security and police state. Here's some quotes from some of them.
If you're an ordinary American, looks pretty scary.
It is scary. Al-Qaeda's on the rise in this part of the world, and the NSA program is proving its worth yet again. After Benghazi, they're on steroids. They attacked our consulate. They killed an ambassador. A year has passed, and nobody's paid a price. After Benghazi, these Al-Qaeda types are really on steroids, thinking we're weaker and they're stronger.
So specific as to how enormous it was going to be, and also there were certain dates were given, but it didn't specify where it's going to be. And, you know, the assumption is that it's probably most likely to happen in the Middle East at or about one of the embassies, but there's no guarantee of that at all. It could basically be in Europe, it could be in the United States, it could be a series of combined attacks. Al-Qaeda is in many ways stronger than it was before 9/11 because it's mutated and it's spread.
The one thing that we can talk about, David, is the fact that there's been an awful lot of chatter out there. Chatter means conversation among terrorists about the planning that's going on. Some individuals who are making plans, such as we saw before 9/11.
Yeah, they're making plans like they did before 9/11. And of course, we know who were behind some of those plans. And it wasn't just Al-Qaeda, the government-created terrorist organization. And why are they on steroids? Well, they're on steroids because we are arming them. We have created this boogeyman, and we're putting it on steroids. We're the ones injecting them with steroids. That was what Benghazi was all about. And yet, this is what the mainstream media is telling us. This is what the government puppets for the military-industrial complex are telling us, that it's all okay. It's all vindicated now because they discovered some vague threat. They don't know exactly where it's going to be, and now they tell us they don't know when it's going to be, but they know it's a real threat, and it's very serious. It's summed up really pretty well by NPR, which of course is a government news outlet. And this is what they said on Monday's NPR show. They said that after weeks of debate on Capitol Hill about whether National Security Agency surveillance programs should be curbed, debate sparked by the secrets spilled by NSA leaker Edward Snowden, now the subject has changed 180 degrees to a discussion of how effective the programs may be. You see, Lindsey Graham wastes no time in telling us how the NSA programs have been vindicated now because they've discovered some mythical threat. I guess when Hitler rolled out his military and showed us all of his planes and tanks, we should have all just fallen down and said it's too scary. We're not going to fight that. You know, people have lost their lives in this country fighting for the freedoms that we enjoy, or at least we thought we had enjoyed, and that are being robbed from us on a daily basis by our government. And yet we're supposed to just give all of that up because they promise that they're going to keep us secure. Well, they're pushing a phony paradigm. You are not going to get more secure if you give up your liberties. You're going to be going into the slavery of a police and surveillance state. Now, here's the case against what these people are pushing. And an article from Infowars says, is the government exaggerating the threat of terror for political reasons? And we have a quote here from former Secretary of Homeland Security, Tom Ridge. He admitted that he was pressured to raise terror alerts to help Bush win re-election. And the threat from al-Qaeda, while real, has been greatly exaggerated. Former U.S. National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski, who is also a top foreign policy advisor to President Obama, told the Senate that the war on terror is a mythical historical narrative. And yet we see that even still, we see that the U.S. government is in turmoil over a, quote, big new al-Qaeda plot, the biggest thing we've seen since 9/11. And yet at the same time, Obama is funding them. In another Infowars article from Anthony Gucciardi, he points out that Obama even initiated the large-scale arming of al-Qaeda-linked Syrian rebels through a, quote, secret order, unquote. And that was reported by mainstream news outlet Reuters back in 2012. See, that's the why of all this. The why of all this is the arming of al-Qaeda that was being done by the CIA, the fighting going on within the government, within the CIA. That was what Benghazi was all about. So Benghazi and the NSA all comes full circle as we see in this news today. And yet we see Pat Cadell on Fox News talking about how John Boehner aided Obama in covering up Benghazi. See, it's not just the Democrats. It's not just people covering up for Obama. And these problems are not going to go away if Obama is removed from office. He should be removed from office. He's committed high crimes and treason. But they're not going to go away because Republicans are involved in this as well. In this article, we learned pollster Pat Cadell charged Republican Speaker of the House, John Boehner, of aiding the Obama administration in its cover-up of the Benghazi scandal, claiming that Boehner knew about weapons being smuggled out of Libya and into the hands of Syrian rebels by the CIA. He said, we have John Boehner who's purposely suppressing anything on Benghazi because he knew what we found out this week. No, we didn't find it out this week. We found it out much earlier than that. And he had approved it. These sales he had approved. These CIA teams on the ground which were sending weapons from Libya through Turkey to Syrian rebels without congressional approval, said Pat Cadell. The notion that arms, including surface-to-air missiles, were being sent from Benghazi to militants and terrorists in Syria was voiced as far back as last November by Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer during an appearance on the Alex Jones show. Yes, this is not something that we're just learning. The mainstream media, as well as most in government, just like John Boehner, he's not the only one doing this. These are people, both parties have been covering this up from the very beginning, because from the very beginning, we had people like Colonel Tony Shaffer, as well as Wayne Madsen, as well as Dr. Steve Pieczenik, telling us exactly what is now coming out. And Alex spent a lot of time talking to Wayne Madsen yesterday on the radio show, and here's an excerpt of that.
Now in hindsight, and now as you've been proven absolutely accurate, what happened here? What is your latest intel? What are your sources saying?
Well, it's what I said originally. I think there were a lot of things at play in Benghazi. I think the U.S. had supplied weapons to the Libyan rebels, and then obviously when the Syria thing happened, they wanted to transfer not only weapons, but some of these Islamist fighters from the Libyan campaign to the Syrian campaign. And obviously, Stevens, the ambassador, was a part of this. The other thing, this wasn't really a U.S. embassy operation in Benghazi. It was a CIA station.
So after covering up what actually happened in Benghazi for months, now the government is trying to use that to scare us, to create a phony worldwide terror alert. And we have a quote from Pericles, which really addresses that. He says, freedom is a sure possession of those alone who have the courage to defend it. We have to have the courage to take the risks that come with freedom and not be scared into this phony paradigm thinking that we're going to get security if we give up our liberty. That's not going to happen. We're going to get slavery, and they're trying to use this worldwide threat to scare us, to distract us from their crimes. Now, speaking of crimes of the government, Alex has a report about another tragic case of CPS abuse, even more tragic because this continues to happen over and over again.
Imagine you're a happy family living in Central Texas in a suburb of Austin, Round Rock. And one night you decide to smoke some marijuana after your 2-year-old daughter's gone to bed while you watch a movie. Something over 100 million Americans are estimated to do every single week. A good secret police neighbor smells the marijuana, calls the police, and they come with the CPS and take your 2-year-old happy daughter who'd never been in the hospital and never been sick and never been beaten up. You go for weekly visits with your daughter and she's dirty, she's confused, she has black eyes, bruises, mold is growing on her body and her clothing. You go to the state and say, she's being abused, help her. And they laugh at you. And a month later, you get the call, she's on life support. Her head has been caved in. 2 days later, they take her off life support and she dies. Another victim of this tyrannical government that we have that is incentivizing the states to seize as many children as they can. Over 1 million of them a year. The Justice Department's own numbers show the horrific facts. The most dangerous place a child can be is in state custody. Little Alexandria Hill, or Alex as she was known, will never get to grow up and be part of the spelling bee at school or the swim team or softball. She'll never get to go to college and meet the man of her dreams and have her own children and grandchildren. She's dead. Another casualty of this sick society we have that has the largest prison population in the world. Every authoritarian state throughout history has been obsessed with attacking the family and seizing children from their parents. Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, Maoist China. But they never did it on the scale that we see here in the United States. And every day I see cases in Texas alone where people's children are taken for the most petty of reasons and end up dead, raped, tortured, killed, their heads caved in. The children disappear routinely and end up overseas in snuff films and pornography. Our children are one of the favored commodities of the criminals that run our government. And the people that are in control of Williamson County, Texas, are famous for their abuse of the innocent and famous for their abuse of children that they've kidnapped from their parents. And I want to say something to the child predators in the police department in Williamson County and other areas in the United States. When we take America back, and we will, you will be tried for your crimes against humanity. You want to now charge one of the foster parents for supposedly caving this little girl's head in? You are just as guilty, knowing how hellish those facilities and those homes are where they warehouse kids for money. You know statistically there are more pedophiles and more abusers who literally torture those children within inches of their life, and that the state covers it up because it's part of a sick racket. And you need to know that it's all on your head, just like all the other cases in Williamson County where they've known people were innocent and known who killed people's wives and children and done nothing to prosecute the real criminals and gone after innocent people. You will be charged for that crime as well. And those charges are now forthcoming. And you will be brought to justice in Williamson County and everywhere else for the crimes you've committed. Your tyranny can go on for a long time, but sooner or later, God is going to cut you down. You shouldn't fear Alex Jones, and you shouldn't even fear the American people. You should fear God, because God is real, and God is the law. You will be held in judgment for what you've done. All of you, the judges, the police, you are all accomplices in aiding and abetting the torturous death of children in Williamson County and across the United States and places like North Korea, where they take families' children as well for collectivization into the state. For those of you who have only been passively involved in the industry that is the abuse of children at the hands of the state in this country, there's still time for you to admit the facts and go public and speak out against this evil and turn the tide. I will forgive you. The parents of the abused and dead children will forgive you. And most importantly, the creator of the universe will forgive you. And yes, even little Alexandria Hill, who is beyond your wicked grasp, will forgive you as well. Join humanity and let us stop the modern slave trade in children that is taking place in this country. And finally, all of you out there watching, there are children being kidnapped for the pettiest of reasons in your town and in your city. Become an advocate for those families. Volunteer to expose the incredible miscarriage of justice where a Stasi spy neighbor smells marijuana and a month and a half later a little girl's head is bashed in. Did that family deserve to have their daughter killed in state custody because they smoked pot? Is that really land of the free, home of the brave? Or is it really a system designed to capture non-violent, non-criminal people in a parasitic system? I'm Alex Jones signing off for Infowars.com. The ball is in your court. The rest is up to you. The innocent children are crying out, not just here in the U.S., but worldwide, under state and corporate abuse. Those children are counting on you to research the facts we've laid out here today and to come to their aid. If you won't, who will?
Another example of how government is not only incompetent, but predatory. And CPS represents that better than probably any other agency. We're going to be right back after the break. We're going to have an interview with Dr. Laura Presley about smart meters. She's going to tell you why you should be concerned about them and things that you can do to stop them in your area. Stay tuned. Now you can watch the Infowars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.
Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Well, our next guest is going to talk to us about smart meters. It's something that's coming at us from the federal government. It's a major push by the central government, but it's taking place at the local level. And she's going to talk to us about why you should be concerned and what you can do about it at the local level. Now, this is Dr. Laura Presley. She has a PhD in chemistry. She's a business owner here in Austin, has run for city council, and she has over 17 years experience in semiconductor management, that sort of thing. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, David.
And thank you for your activism. Tell us a little bit about why you're concerned about smart meters.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for what you guys do here at Infowars and educating everybody about some issues that mainstream media really doesn't touch on most of the time. I started getting interested in the smart meter issue. It was about a year ago, and Texas has the Public Utility Commission, and they were holding a hearing on issues and citizens that had issues with smart meters. And so I came out and I testified as a part of Texans for Accountable Government, and mostly just encouraging the industry, because of my background in semiconductors and in the technology industry, to encourage them to please allow an opt-out program, because you know, it's just logical, it makes sense, and it just, people are concerned about privacy issues, health issues. Why don't we just have an opt-out program? Seems very simple. And so while I was at that Public Utility Commission testifying, I learned about the health effects, and I had not been really very knowledgeable on these health effects. I went home looked at my meter on the outside of my house, and we have a smart meter. We live in Austin, Texas. We have a smart meter, and it's facing our bedroom. Some people's face away from their house. Ours was facing towards our bedroom. And what was interesting was my husband and I, for several years, our smart meter got installed about 2009. And for some reason, a couple years, my husband and I were kind of joking with each other. We would say, when you go to sleep at night, you twitch. And we're both engineers, right? And so we would kind of joke with each other, and I'm like, well, when you're asleep first, you twitch. And he goes, well, when you go to sleep first, you twitch. And we started counting the seconds between the body twitchings. So what happens, we would lay there and our legs would kick, just involuntarily while we were in the very beginning going to sleep. And every 25 seconds this would happen. So I'm like, you know what, that is an external stimuli, electrical stimuli, causing our bodies to kind of jerk. So
and that makes sense too, because we know that you can apply an electrical stimuli to a dead frog and you can make the leg jump, right? So why can't you do that? I mean, that's a wire. People can see that being touched, but that can be done wirelessly. I mean, Tesla was looking at transmitting major power wirelessly.
Exactly. And so we were like, well, let's find the root cause of this electrical signal. We looked at several things. We looked at our compressor in our refrigerator, because it comes on and off every now and then, right? So what's going on and off around the house? I had a friend who had a meter that would measure radio frequency power densities. And I said, well, could you come out and let's measure my smart meter? Let's see what that thing's doing. So we measured it. It was pulsing every 25 seconds. From an engineering standpoint, my PhD's in chemistry and physics, and my PhD was on the photon and electron-induced processes on metal surfaces. So this is exactly what's occurring with these smart meters. They're outputting this huge amount of radiation, radio frequency and microwave. Those are the frequencies that they're using. And it's affecting the electrical wires of our home. Not only is radiation coming out, you also have these pulses that are happening. So here we are, every 25 seconds my smart meter's pulsing. And we're twitching, very consistent. From an engineering standpoint, that's a root cause identification of an issue. So I called Austin Energy, and I started at customer service. I went up the chain, and I said, I want to opt out. I'm twitching. It's consistent with the timing of my smart meter going off. And we said, well, why don't you have Austin Energy engineers come out to our house and see if the thing is operating correctly. So we had several engineers come. Interestingly, they did not know their meters were pulsing every 25 seconds. They thought they were pulsing every maybe 4 to 6 hours, once every 4 to 6 hours. So we helped show them with data and the little meter that we had, and kept going up the chain and saying, I want to opt out. I want to opt out of this. This is bothering me. And so worked with Austin Energy, met with Larry Weiss, who is the CEO of Austin Energy, the general manager, and his chief of staff, talked with them back and forth, and told them about the pulsings. They had their engineers come out and turn the pulse off, and our twitching stopped.
Yeah.
Interesting. Perfect root cause analysis verification. You know, these are terms in engineering.
When they turn the pulsing off, is it no longer working as a smart meter?
No. Well, what happens is the meter has this radio emitter that actually, which I didn't know, they could come in and just completely turn the thing off, and it still reads your electrical usage, but it's not sending the signal. They would have to get someone physically to come read it. So they turned it off temporarily so we could see if the twitching would stop, and it did. So I'm like,
well, the problem is, of course, they don't want people to opt out. This is all being driven from the federal government. That's one of the reasons we're covering this. It's not just a local issue. People are having this issue all over the country. They set a goal about 10 years ago. They wanted to get to about 50% coverage of smart meters, and their ultimate goal is to have 100%.
Yes.
The government does not like for people to opt out about anything. They've got a plan for us, and they want to follow that. Now, we're going to focus primarily on the health issues, because that's the hardest thing for people to see. But there are, of course, economic issues. There are privacy issues that people are starting to understand. Economic issues are, they're not doing it here yet. But we know that they're shutting down power generation capability all over the country and raising rates. And one of the other things they're going to do to people is to say, in lieu of just across-the-board rate raising, say we're going to charge you more based on time of day use. But they already know in Chicago that people can't adjust their schedule for those time of day uses. So it's just going to be a rate increase masquerading as something else, because if you could change your usage, we wouldn't have rush hour traffic everywhere. Right. People are on a schedule for a reason. They have school, they have work. They don't have the option of adjusting when they use that power. So that's just going to be a rate increase. So people can understand that. They can see what's behind that. They can understand now with all the NSA stuff, the privacy issues, but it's very difficult for people to notice. First of all, like we were talking just before the interview, you don't taste it, you don't smell it, you don't see it, and sometimes it's very difficult to see the effects of it.
That's right.
You were able to see that.
That's right. And it's interesting, like you said, you can't, these radio waves and microwaves, when your microwave is cooking your food, you don't see any radiation.
That's right.
It's not red, it's not purple, it's nothing.
Good analogy, because people on so many different issues, whether it's major power lines or whether it's cell phones or now these smart meters, people don't want to believe that that's the issue, right. And they can't see it, and they get a lot of pushback from the industry saying it's not a problem, don't worry about it. And yet you can see it with microwaves. If people think about that, they can see the potential here.
That's right. And what's interesting is the radiation these meters put out are radio frequency about 900 megahertz, which is what your phones use. But it also has another band of microwave radiation, same frequency and energy as your microwave oven. Exactly. It's just
about
lower.
How many watts is it?
The power densities that are coming out are about. It's really interesting. They've said that the energy from your smart meter is just the same as your cell phone. That is absolutely not true. I've measured it. We have a meter here. I want to show this.
Yeah, show people what the meter looks like.
We have a power density meter. This thing measures down to 800 megahertz up to 2.5 gigahertz, which is the range that is used for these smart meters. And what we measured with this is 30,000 microwatts per meter squared. And think of your body as a meter square surface area. Think of that. So you've got this power density hitting you 30,000 microwatts. Your phone ranges from 50 to maybe 1,000. So this thing was measuring 30 times higher than your phone.
Max, yeah.
So do not let these people tell you that it's the same radiation as your phone, because it's not. We've measured it. So again, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, and you can't taste it. But I'm telling you what, your body subconsciously is feeling it. It actually does. The twitching was a manifestation of the jolt that we were getting. And two things I want to really describe the mechanisms of how these smart meters work and how they affect our health. The first is the radiation. I think that's easy for everybody to understand. This radiation is going out, it's sending the signal.
And that's measurable. This is not something that is just
it's absolutely measurable.
Conspiracy theory. It is.
Oh, no.
It's a measurement.
It's chemistry and physics.
Yes.
It's data.
Yes.
So you can measure it with these meters. And that's the signal they're sending, 500 feet away to these concentrators on the power lines for the data that they say, well, this is how much energy you're using, and this we're going to bill you at the end of the month. So easy, no question about it. The second one is a little more subtle mechanism. What happens is this huge pulse, I'm going to go, that's a huge pulse that goes out of this smart meter. Think about how the meter works. You've got the big meter, you've got the wires coming through it that carry the current to your house. That radiation causes electron excitement in those circuitries. So you get a pulse of electron current. So you have voltage, noise all through your house. When that meter sends out that radiation pulse, you get an electrical pulse in the house all through the circuitry of your home, surrounding you as you sleep. So again, every 25 seconds these meters are going off, pulsing. That's over 3,000 pulses a day. All right? It's a huge number of pulses. Our bodies have not evolved to manage that and manage the radiation or manage those electrical pulses. So there's another little show and tell I want to show. This is a Graham-Stetzer analyzer. This measures the electrical noise that's going on in your home. So you have two things, the radiation and the electrical noise. You can buy Stetzer filters. They're $35 each. They're not cheap. But this is an easy solution, if you have the money, the financial means to do it, to reduce that electrical noise from your smart meter. Okay, so this is our power. When you talk about, what can we do? This is what we can do. So this is one thing.
It's kind of like putting getting fluoride filters. You can try to fight them from putting fluoride in the water, but ultimately you have to do something yourself until that fight's won. So
freedom is not free. I love that quote.
Thank you so much for your activism.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Laura. Thank you. Well, winning the fight for health and for privacy and for keeping the country from falling into economic ruin is really a struggle for information. As Laura Presley just pointed out, it's a question in many cases of informing people what's really going on, telling them what the risks are, getting them to understand that. We have several tools for that. We have the new Infowars magazine for people who are inclined to look at things in print. And we also have Prison Planet TV. A subscription there helps to get the information out. 10 people can share that with you at a time, and it helps to support our operation. Well, that's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 7, 8 Central.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.